steered them to the FA Cup, the European Cup Winners' Cup, the European Super Cup. Tonight, Alex Ferguson, the man at Man U.
I've had good experience as a player, which would have served me well getting into management. But you're not prepared, no one's prepared for the United job because it's just a unique job.
This man also has a mission. He wants to do what they did. We look at Wilf O'Reilly, Britain's best hope for a Winter Olympic gold medal since Torvill and Dean. This Olympic champion dominates his event like no other athlete, but Bubka's left home. We report on the greatest whose career has gone west. Who won Britain's last gold medal in Olympic boxing? Chris Finnegan, Mexico, '68. He once boxed for England against Denmark 24 years ago. We have the ABC of the spot kick. Well, Manchester United are playing some super football at the moment, but can it win them the league championship? Since their last title in 1967, United have won numerous cup competitions, but have continually seemed to lack the resilience to clinch that league title again. Can they now do it at last under the management of Alex Ferguson?
Good ball, Jules, good ball. Finish it, Brian, good finish. Well done, Jules. Majorana's back with a vengeance.
I think he's got a wonderful spirit with him, a wonderful way of dealing with the players, and he does a very good job, and I'm sure things will work out the right way for him.
They've waited so long for this championship that they've been chasing that the pressure's on all the time, and it'll get worse this season the closer they get.
Done.
To the Lancashire League?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that all right?
Get off and way. I mentioned it's your idea.
The problem with winning the league at Manchester United is that you've got to be consistent. Whereas all the media and a lot of the punters, they want excitement, especially at Old Trafford.
Kijk, zijn hier eens hier. Kijk. The Welsh wizard. Lloyd George.
It's like playing in St. Peter's Square. It's an incredible sensation, and it's not easy. But it's easy to manage it. Is it? Yeah, Rodney Corbett can manage them. I mean, they're a marvellous club, marvellous supporters. Everyone wants to play for Manchester United.
I think the situation for him is a lot better than it was 2 years ago at this time of the season, when he was probably, I don't know, bottom 6 in the league and looking to be going nowhere. He'd prefer the situation he's got now to the one he had then, that's for sure.
Living with the legacy of Manchester United means living down the legend of Matt Busby, winner of 5 league championships and the European Cup. Builder of exhilarating teams, laced with extravagant performers. Busby's successors could only shadow his achievements. Wilf McGuinness reached 3 semi-finals in his 18 months. Frank O'Farrell led the league in his only full season. And the FA Cup came to Old Trafford for the first time in 14 years in the reign of Tommy Docherty, popular with the supporters, but still shown the door. Dave Sexton reached the cup final and finished second in the league. And there was more cup success for United under the flamboyant Ron Atkinson. But despite a record start to one season, even he couldn't put United's hat on that elusive championship. Winning the FA Cup again and never finishing out of the top 4 did not guarantee Atkinson United's stamp of approval. In 1986, the manager's parking lot was vacant again. Where would United turn now?
Well, the atmosphere at Hampden is tremendous. Ferguson about to kick off.
The Scottish FA Cup final of 1969, before 132,000 people at Hampden Park. The old firm meet again, and Celtic whip Rangers 4-0. A frustrating day for Rangers' fearless centre-forward.
Whistle's gone, it's a free kick, and London goes down there. Mr. Callahan having a word with Ferguson.
Alex Ferguson was not an international player, but his aggression hid a hunger for success that made him a manager of flair and authority. After spells at East Stirling and St Mirren, he arrived in 1978 at Pittodrie Stadium in Aberdeen, where the wind of change no longer blew in only from the North Sea. In 8, the son of a shipyard worker from Govan was ready to leave home shores for a voyage south. Tottenham were interested, but the name of Manchester United was special to Ferguson.
When I came to a stage in management at Aberdeen, that you have to examine yourself. I did a chat with my chairman at Aberdeen, Dick Donald, and I says, I'm going to quit at the end of the season. He says, what do you mean you're going to quit? I said, well, I really feel I have to move on now. I'm in eight years here, and I really... He says, have you got a job? And I says, no. He said, well, that's a bit bloody silly. You're leaving without a job. He says, if you take my advice, he says, the only job that you really should be interested in is Manchester United. And within my own self, that was a sort of a... You can never preempt a thing, and you never plan your life that way, but I always had, at that time, you know, that it was a target, if you know what I mean. I was at a crossroads in the sense, what do I do with my life, you know? So, and there is to be a point where you have to examine yourself, and I couldn't examine myself more than coming down here, could I? What I do feel about the club is that you're never prepared for it. I mean, I thought I had good experience at Aberdeen, you know, 8.5 years there. I thought I had good experience as a player, which would have served me well getting into management. But you're not prepared, no one's prepared for the United job because it's just a unique job. And there's not much point in me sitting here trying to explain it all because I sometimes couldn't explain half it myself. You just have to be in there to know what I'm talking about, and maybe other managers do. But I think that the most important thing is to just understand all the politics and probably possibly the media's approach to Manchester United. Once you've sorted that part out, it's not as bad.
As a former official of the Scottish PFA, Ferguson understands the industrial side of football, the demands on the players. Keeping young men like Ryan Giggs training and away from the predators is just part of his working day.
If everyone's all right as Bruce 4, Palliser 6, Webb 5, Concerta 7, Ince 8, McClure 9, Hughes 10, Blackmore 11.
Contrary to popular football jargon, the game is not just about players. If you're running Manchester United, it's sometimes in a lounge suit, not a tracksuit. Ferguson was once known as a man with a short fuse.
This one is urgent and you won't like it.
I know. I can't believe it.
What he can believe is that by the end of this season, Ferguson will be United's longest-serving manager since Busby. He also knows it counts for nothing unless he can deliver the First Division dream. For 25 years, they've talked about Old Trafford as the mecca of football, the best stadium in the country. But just down the East Lancs Road, Liverpool have been winning 11 championships, while United have been flirting with the idea. 2 years ago, Ferguson thought his romance with the club might be over. The team was apparently going nowhere. And the Manchester Mafia had the knives out.
The one lesson that I learned is when I brought 5 players in at one time in all staying hotels. It's difficult to bring 5 players into our club at one time. Fortunately, I got off with it. I got off it because of a good board of directors, outstanding chairman and directors who supported me and agreed with all the decisions I was making and gave me the confidence to see it all through. And seeing it all through really was a cup run. You know, that was the change. Because I'd gone through that December, it was black, when I mean black. I remember, I would keep making this point, but that Saturday when I left Mark Hughes out in the Crystal Palace game at home, and we started so well in the game, and we're 1 up, and playing really well, and it just collapsed round about us, you know. And we brought Sparky on late in the game, but it didn't mean a difference. And the crowd, for the first time, really got at us, you know. And I went home and they made the FA Cup draw Forest away. Crikey me. I said, oh well, here's it. But you know, it's amazing that that kind of a draw, because the support that day were defiant. They'd all written us off. All written us off. And they can't do that at United.
If it was judgment day for Ferguson, his mask of steel didn't slip. United won 1-0, and if Mark Robins' goal at Nottingham saved Ferguson's Old Trafford future, it also sent United on a roller coaster FA Cup ride that was climaxed at Wembley in the replay against Crystal Palace by Lee Martin's winner. The manager kissed the goalscorer, perhaps more in relief than jubilation, as Brian Robson lifted United's first trophy under Ferguson. In retrospect, the manager had cleared his most difficult hurdle.
I mean, there was no stage as a board of directors that we ever sat down to discuss the position of Alex Ferguson, and I think internally none of us had actually lost that confidence, although I do accept that some of the supporters were calling for his blood at that time. But he wasn't as close as some people believe in actually, being sacked.
The faces in the Manchester United dressing room today are those of Ferguson's own choosing. It's taken time and no little money, but the millions he spent backing his judgment shows him to be as decisive as he was when he ended the United careers of several Stretford End favourites.
I had to get one team within the structure of what Manchester United supporters want, and great players left. I mean, I thought, if Norman Whiteside hadn't his knee problems, you know, what he's achieved anyway as a player is remarkable. He's distinguished himself in modern day football, considering, you know, he had an early injury as a boy. But if he hadn't had that problem with his knee, I think Norman Whiteside might have been one of the greatest players ever. I mean, I thought he was unbelievable. And in Gordon Strachan's case, and knowing Gordon, you know, that he maybe needs that motivation all the time to change. Because he used to come into my office, telling me many times at Aberdeen, I'm bored. I said, well, bloody unbore yourself. You know, but of course he eventually left. He was a big player.
The big nights back to Old Trafford. The European Super Cup brought Red Star Belgrade, the European champions, to Manchester recently. The atmosphere was faintly gladiatorial. As Ferguson took his seat, the welcome he got was far more benign than it would have been 2 years earlier. The expectancy at Old Trafford often exceeds the delivery, and when United won an early penalty, there was the usual call from the crowd for a cavalier victory. Ferguson knows all about the dangers of that. Steve Bruce took the kick, and the manager didn't flinch. What did make an impression on Ferguson was the performance of the Yugoslav number 10, Savicevic, one of the best players in the world now and priced at around £7 million. Even United, with their vast resources and recently released healthy balance sheet, can't compete in that market. But Ferguson knows United fans expect the best available. They can be critical of Neil Webb or even of Brian McClare, but it's players like that who make winning teams and give the coaching staff their moments of euphoria. Then again, the traditions of Old Trafford demand that the youth policy forged with the Busby Babes nearly 40 years ago is never forgotten. The inheritance is maintained now in an 18-year-old former England schoolboy captain who's playing for Wales and has inevitably been compared with an Irishman who was once the ace in the pack for another Scottish manager. Ryan Giggs is not George Best, and neither is Alex Ferguson Matt Busby. Not yet, anyway. But the excitement the boy brings to the big stage is all part of the Ferguson Championship bid that is gathering pace week by week. Maybe the European Super Cup is just a bit of decoration on the sideboard as United wait for the centrepiece of their ambitions. Certainly the thoughts of Ferguson and his assistant Brian Kidd must have strayed towards the possibility of another lap of honour next May and the consummation of Alex Ferguson's marriage to Manchester United.
I think Alex fallen in love with the club and is working from the heart as well, you know, and I think this could be our year.
Well, they're in a great position. I mean, you know, consistency is the byword, and they're either being top or just below the top all the time up to now. And you usually find, like in seasons, if you're at the top, you stay at the top.
I think this is the best chance they'll ever had, because they made a very, very good start. A good thing in their favour, I think, and I hate to say this, I was hoping Arsenal would go longer in the European Cup, and United, maybe, I was hoping United would go all the way as well, but I said at the beginning of the season, the longer both clubs go in Europe, the less chance they will have of winning the championship, because I think there's extra matches, extra travelling, injuries and whatnot. And I think this year, with the squad that they've got and the start they've made, if they don't win it this year, it could be quite some time before they win it again.
I just wonder what might happen to him if Robbo gets an injury that keeps him out for a distance.
25 years has it happened, that's right. And it's the right time to do it.
There is a challenge. We're not set to win this league this year, but I think we're getting closer. I think we have a really good chance. And if they run to do it, it'd be really disappointing. But I know they'll go to the wire because they've got the bottle, and they've got the endurance, and they've got the ability to go to the wire. And it could be decided by goal difference. It could be decided by one bad performance in the run to that tape. And we've one or two obvious challengers that we accept that, but that's part of it. And we know where the challenges are coming from too. So I really do feel that we have a great chance, and it would be a tremendous feat by the players and myself to get rid of the whole thing, you know.
John Watson reporting there, and a good win for United tonight in the Rumbelows Cup. They've beaten Oldham 2-0. Brian McClare put them ahead after just 58 seconds. Coventry 1, Tottenham 2, a Gordon Durie winner, 7 minutes from time for Spurs. Everton 1, Leeds 4, Leeds in spectacular form, 2 more goals for Rod Wallace. Norwich City 2, West Ham 1, Fleck got both City's goals, 1 from the penalty spot. Forest 0, Southampton 0. Well, Alex Ferguson led Aberdeen to 3 Scottish League titles, and his old club have been in Premier League action tonight at home to Rangers. Let's show you what happened. The commentator is Jock Brown.
Headed on by McCoy. Here's Hateley. Very neat turn. McCoy's tummy allows Gordon to take over. That's a great effort by Gordon and by Hateley. A superb finish by Hateley. Leash going into the area. Well beaten by Hateley, back defending. Down goes Hillhouse, that's a penalty kick. Gary Stevens going into the back of Hillhouse in a very clumsy fashion. Here's Hillhouse. The rebound from Ken Katz. Aberdeen have equalised. Hateley's ball inside, picked up by McCall. That's fine play by Hateley. His pace is good enough here. It's a great chance for Rangers. That was brilliant. Robertson looking for Hateley. Into the path of McCoist it goes. There's McLeish. McCoist gets the thought. Hateley's given that straight to Hillhouse. A chance now for Aberdeen. Hillhouse may be on Gorham. Still has a chance. Blocked on the line and forced home in the end by Irvine.
Aberdeen 2, Rangers 3 was the final score. Other scores in Scotland: Celtic 0, Hibs 0. Hearts 1, Falkirk 1. Scott Crabbe equalised for Hearts in the second half. They're still 2 points clear of Rangers. St Johnstone 1, Airdrie 0, and St Mirren 0, Dunfermline 0. And in Scottish 1, Hamilton 3, Meadowbank 1. European Championship qualifier tonight: Greece 0, Holland 2. Holland became the 7th team to clinch a place in the finals in Sweden next summer, alongside England and Scotland, of course. And it looks like Germany, they play Luxembourg next week to make up the squad. Well, the big sports story of the week came in tennis. This is Guy Forget here, beating Pete Sampras to clinch the first Davis Cup win for France in 59 years. It all took place in Lyon. Forget and Henri Leconte won 3 of the 4 matches against the USA. Yannick Noah was the captain. France hadn't won the cup since 1932 in the days of the famous musketeers, Barotra, Cochet and Lacoste. Great scenes there. Britain last won the Davis Cup in 1936, so perhaps we're due a win in 1995. Now here's a sports story